Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to this week's episode of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. This is a special web series delivered by the Swamis of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha. It has been initiated to inspire us during these challenging times with the universal wisdom of ancient Hindu scriptures presented in a contemporary, bite-sized format. Having grown up in Leicester, UK, Brahmaviharidas Swami was initiated as a sadhu by Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1981. Since then, he has been part of the core creative team of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha and played a leading role in the creation of Swaminarayan Akshardham complexes in Gandhinagar and New Delhi in India, as well as the upcoming Swaminarayan Akshardham in North America. Currently, he is overseeing the historic project of the first traditional Hindu mandir in the Middle East, being built in Abu Dhabi. Brahmaviharidas Swami also oversees the global outreach work of BAPS and in that capacity has interacted with religious, national and community leaders from around the world. He is an accomplished and sought-after speaker who has spoken in international seminars and conferences around the world, inspiring leaders, scientists, students and youth through his insightful and practical talks infused by his deep study of global cultures, histories and philosophies. For his contributions to social and spiritual upliftment, he has been awarded an honorary PhD from Gujarat University. So, without further ado, I now hand it over to Brahmaviharidas Swami to speak to us about belief.
Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavan Jai, Akshar Purushottam Maharaj Jai, Radha Krishna Devani Jai, Siyavar Ramachandra Bhagavan Jai, Umapati Mahadevani Jai, Guru Hari Pramukh Swami Maharaj Jai, Guru Hari Mahan Swami Maharaj Jai, Pramukh Swami Maharaj Shatabdi Mahotsav Jai, London Mandir Rajan Jayanti Mahotsav Jai. Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Siya Ram. Welcome to this week's session of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. Perhaps some of you may have been wondering, why is it called Timeless Hindu Wisdom? Even if you haven't, it is still worth exploring. The word Hindu was popularized by the Persians for people living around or beyond the river Indus. So another name for Hinduism is the Hindu dharma, originally called in the Sanskrit language sanatana dharma. Sana bhavam sanatanam, that which is eternal, that which is without beginning or without end, beginningless or endless, beyond beginning or beyond end, is actually and obviously beyond time. Hence the word timelessness is important in the entire thought and philosophy of Hindu Dharma. There are many shades of meaning to Sanatana Dharma. Once we understand the intricacies of the Sanskrit language, the samas and vigraha, one being Sanatanasya Dharma, which means that Dharma which has been founded by the eternal, not founded by any mortal. The second is Sanatanaschaso Dharmascha, that Dharma which itself is eternal, timeless. And the third meaning is sanatanam karoti, sanatana yati. That dharma which makes its followers eternal, timeless. As you can see in the many shades of meaning of the Hindu dharma or Sanatan dharma, timelessness or eternity is a very important part. The vastness of Hindu dharma, both from the point of view of time and thought, makes it universal. To further explain this with a very simple example, and by no means do I claim this example to be comprehensive. Once, a group of young scientists surrounded a Hindu sadhu after a science and spiritual conference. The scientists asked him that, Swamiji, can you tell us when Hinduism was founded? Who is the founder? And what is the main scripture or book of Hinduism? The Swamiji smiled and he explained that, first tell me, do you or do you not believe that every religion or every thought or philosophy is a stream of knowledge, a river of knowledge? All of them agreed and they said, yes, it's a stream of knowledge that continues for hundreds of thousands of years and affects society. So just as Buddhism has been flowing for almost 2,500 years, Christianity has been flowing for almost 2,000 years, and all other religions in their own unique way have been flowing, have been enhancing, have been enlightening, have been influencing society in the best way possible. So Hinduism itself is a stream of knowledge, a river of knowledge that has been flowing. The young minds agreed and said, yes, we agree. They said even science is a stream of knowledge. The sadhu said yes. So would you or would you not agree that a stream of knowledge that has been flowing for hundreds of thousands of years has importance in influencing the mind and the thought and the philosophies of the people around us? They all agreed. If science itself is a stream of knowledge, then who is the founder of science? They were a little puzzled. Would you say Archimedes? Would you say Newton? Would you say Einstein? Would you say a host of scientists like Edison who have contributed to science? They said, no, you can't single out one scientist saying that he or she has founded it. Okay, then when was the stream of science founded? They said ever since the first man who picked up 2 stones and created the first spark, that is when science was founded. So there is no date. And what single book of science would you say is the main bedrock of science? Is it The Origin of Species? Is it Principia Mathematica? Is it the General Theory of Relativity? Or so many papers and so many books and so many ideas that have been given by the great scientists of the world. They all said, well, science does not have a single founder. Science itself does not have a date of foundation. And science does not have a single book. Because every great enlightened scientist have contributed to the stream of science. The sadhu smiled and said, well, Hinduism is much vaster than science. Science might have begun with man himself. Hinduism has begun much before man and will continue after man. If science, which deals with material and things visible and tangible, and for that you don't have a single founder or a single book or a date of foundation. Hinduism deals with inner spirituality, philosophy which you can't see. So Hinduism itself is so vast. so ageless and timeless, and so spiritual that it does not have a single founder, and it does not have a single book, and it does not have one single date of origin, because it is beyond beginning and beyond end. It is timeless. In this simple way, we can also try and grasp the vastness of the Hindu dharma and the wisdom and values of Hinduism, which are relevant for all ages, for all people, at all times, and in all events and situations. In one way, Hinduism is beyond time, space, people, and places. Imagine the Shanti mantra, which were sung at the foothills of the Himalayas by the great saints and sages who composed them thousands of years ago. If the same Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam, if the same mantra is spoken after thousands of years now, they have the same potency and same power to enlighten us. It is beyond time. If the same mantras which were said in the Himalayas, and if they are sung, the Shanti part is sung by the St. James school students, or they are sung in the White House or in the Parliament House, they have the same ability to create the energy of the same peace that was created thousands of years ago in a different space, in a different environment, and even today. So just as Hinduism, all spiritual knowledge, all values and wisdom of every religion on this earth are beyond time and space, and even beyond people and places. You could be of any culture or any community. If you understand the wisdom of values of any religion thoroughly, then that wisdom and values have the ability to improve life at that level. To explain the relevance of Hindu wisdom for all ages, for all times, for all purposes, and in all situations, I'd like to take you back 2000 years. In the year 326 BC, Alexander the Great, after his multiple conquests, had come down to the Indus Valley. Alexander the Great was no ordinary conqueror. By the age of 19, he had become the king of Macedonia. By the age of 21, he had managed to unify the whole of Macedonia. By the age of 23, he had conquered Persia. By the age of 25, he had become the sole ruler of Egypt. By the age of 28, he had reached India, and in the area of Takshashila, after defeating Porus. We must understand that Alexander the Great had never tasted defeat. Then people wonder, why did he return back after fighting the Hindus or the Indians? There are many reasons. That perhaps there was mutiny in his own army, perhaps he was tired, perhaps he was injured. But there is also one idea that has been given, not just by the Hindu thinkers, but as early as the Greek writers like Plutarch. In the 1st and 2nd century, Plutarch was a Greek writer, a philosopher, a biographer, an essayist, a historian, who later on became a Roman citizen. But he writes about Alexander the Great's interaction with 10 Hindu sadhus, gymnosophists. It was said that Alexander himself valued knowledge and wisdom. And this is in relevance with Hindu wisdom. And when he found out that there were 10 simple sadhus who had actually incited amongst the native kings to oppose Alexander, he decided to gather these 10 sadhus and then ask them questions. Those were the famous Alexandrian neck riddles. Neck riddles also means that a riddle is given, and if you can't answer the riddle satisfactorily, then your neck would be chopped off. So your existence depended upon the answers or the wisdom that you expressed. Alexander commands his commanders to go and visit the sadhus and ask them to come and see him. The sadhus write back to Alexander saying that it is the wish of Alexander to see them, then it is he who should come and see them. The other thing they write, that if you want what we have, you should come in peace, because you are a man of war and we are the people of peace. Seeing some wisdom in these letters, Alexander decides to go to the sadhus. He gathers all of them together and he appoints one of the most elderly and the wisest amongst them as the judge. And he tells them that we shall be asking each one of you one question, and you should be the judge. And the person who first answers the worst question, he would be the one to be dead. The first question Alexander asks, that who are numerous, the living or the dead? If you or I were to answer this question, we would say definitely the dead, because more people have died in history than those who are living. So the sadhu answers, the living are more numerous, because those who are dead do not count anymore. Alexander was impressed. The second question that Alexander asks, that which is larger, the sea or the land? Simple geography teaches us that there is 3 times more water than land. Still the sadhu answers, land is larger, because even underneath the sea there is land, and sea is just part of the earth. Alexander still is deeply impressed. The third question he asks, that which is stronger, life or death? Normally we would say death, because death has the power to extinguish life. At the end of the day, the struggle between life and death, death succeeds. The sadhu answers life, because death no longer feels pain and cannot tolerate misery. Life continues despite pain and misery. So life is far stronger than death. The fourth question Alexander asks, that who is the wisest of us all? Hoping that the sadhus would say Alexander himself. But the sadhus say that none of us have yet found. If it's wiser than all of us, of course he's beyond us. The next question that Alexander asks is that how can a man become most loved? Now he starts asking questions about his own personal desires. How can a man become most loved? The sadhus say that by being the most powerful and least frightening. With power you become fearful. So by being most powerful and least frightening, you become the most loved. The next question, out of curiosity he asks, just to test the sadhus, that which came first, day or night? The sadhu smiles and says, day by 1.5 nights. Alexander is puzzled and has said, is that an answer? That's a strange answer. The sadhu says, strange questions deserve strange answers. Then Alexander expresses his deepest wish and he says, how can man become God? If you know history, his mother Olympias, she told him that he was not born of man, he was born from the gods. And he should be treated as a god, and the whole world is his to conquer. So Alexander had this thing in his mind that he was the descendant of gods. So he says that how can a man become God? The sadhu replies by doing what is impossible. Alexander asks that what is that is impossible? The sadhu says, becoming God. Imagine to tell a conqueror that your desire to be God can never be fulfilled because it's impossible. Next, Alexander asks that to whom can a human never lie? Because throughout his journey, of course, he's had to lie to his old soldiers, to the people, to his own countrymen. So he says, to whom does a human being never lie? The sadhu says, to whom who knows everything, that is God. And then Alexander also asks that how long should a man live? The sadhu says that until he feels that death is more important or death is better than life, he should live as long as that. Alexander then finally asks that when you are so wise, why did you instigate the Sabas, the native kings, to revolt against me? The sadhus reply that we believe that either we should live with dignity or we should die with dignity. Dignity is the most important part of life. Deeply impressed by these answers, he still turned to the 10th sadhu, the senior most, and said, now which one should be the first to die? The sadhu said that none of them. Alexander said that whose answer is the worst? The sadhu replied, each answer is worse than one another. Then he said, then you should be the person that I should put to death. He said, no, Alexander, you are a man of your word. You said the first to give the worst answer should be put to death. And none of them have given the worst answer. And definitely I am not the first to answer your questions, so you cannot put me to death. Deeply impressed by these Hindu sages who had nothing with them. They were almost naked. And here was a conqueror who had half of the world under his feet. Alexander felt so touched by Hindu wisdom and felt it was so timeless. He requested one of them to accompany him and asked him to be his teacher. The Greeks called him Kalonus, and historians believe that it might have been the name Kalyana, which was mispronounced by the Greeks as Kalonus. And also Dandamis, who could have been Dandi Swami. Nevertheless, I just want to emphasize one idea, that the ancient Hindu wisdom is not just relevant for the Hindus, it's relevant across cultures, across people of all status. The Hindu wisdom is important even at this critical stage and relevant today. A similar question was asked to His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1994 by the Vice Consul General of the American Embassy in Bombay. He had read the Hindu scriptures in different ways and at different times, and he had come to Pramukh Swami for darshan. His name was James Waller. And while doing darshan of Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he asked a question that, Swamiji, there is a question which is deep-seated in my mind and I would want to express it. Pramukh Swami allowed him. He said, how relevant are the Upanishads and Vedas today? Pramukh Swami Maharaj replied that they are as relevant today as they were then. He argued that the saints and sages of those times have addressed the issues of that time, then how can those answers be as relevant today after thousands of years? Pramukh Swami said that the saints and sages, they have answered the important and critical questions of the human mind and the heart. They knew the human mind and the heart, and the human mind and the heart is same. So of course those answers are relevant today as they were then. James Waller further questioned that how could the saints and sages of the Vedic times know about the current and contemporary times? Pramukh Swami said, just as you believe in science and you have invented the television which can see across space something of this country into another country, the radio that can hear things distant from any corner of this earth, you can hear the radio. The Hindu saints and sages were gifted with spirituality, and they were Arsh Purush, those that could see in the future. So the saints and sages of the Upanishadic times could see across the future, and that's why they are as relevant today as they were then. Smilingly, James Waller asked Pramukh Swami, are such sadhus, saints and sages present at this time? Those who would know my mind and my heart? Pramukh Swami said, yes. In so many different ways, the enlightened saints and sages can know your mind and your heart. He said, but how can I know? Pramukh Swami smiled and said, it is not through words. It is only when you experience do you realize that such things are possible. After this short meeting, as James Waller and a few of us, we left Pramukh Swami's room and we were waiting in the Mumbai BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir on the 5th floor, waiting for the lift to come up. We were all in silence. One sadhu, his name Tirth Swarup Swami, he straight away came running out of Pramukh Swami's room. And funnily enough, he was carrying a basket. Like you would have people in the street sellers who carry, a wicker basket. He was carrying a wicker basket. He looked so odd. And he said to me in Gujarati, saying that, Swami, Pramukh Swami મોકલ્યું છે, સાહેબ માટે આ ભેટ છે. That Pramukh Swami has sent this is a gift for James Waller. And I knew that there was a condition or a system with all US Embassy officers that they accept no gifts, even in the embassy or outside. And they establish no such relationships, because that's how they are made to work in their profession. So I said, no, take it back. There's no point. We can't give anything like that. And it really looked odd that this Swami was carrying a wicker basket on his shoulder, and he said this whole basket has to be given to James. It wasn't even packed properly or even presentable. So I said, no, you take it back. We can't give. So I was talking to him in Gujarati. Again, the Swami insisted, na, ke Pramukh Swami મોકલ્યું છે, આપવું જ પડે, we have to give it to him because Pramukh Swami himself has sent it. And I asked him, what is it? He said, there's mangoes in it. James Waller turned to me and he said, what is this Swami saying? And I said, he's saying that Pramukh Swami has sent this gift, and I know you do not accept gifts. And he said, what is in this basket? Embarrassingly, I said mangoes, because how could you give a basket full of mangoes, which is completely unpacked, in a very shoddy manner to an officer of any embassy? So I said, no, it's not necessary. He said, no. If they are mangoes? I said, yes, they are mangoes. He said, while I was standing just outside this lift, I was thinking in my mind that my wife had asked me that before you come home, please bring a few mangoes for us. I was just thinking just now that where will I get these mangoes from? And suddenly these mangoes arrived from nowhere. So go back to Pramukh Swami and tell him that such saints and sages who possess the spiritual ability to know the minds and hearts of people are still present today, because the wisdom of Hinduism is timeless. The saints of Hinduism are timeless. And he carried those mangoes back. I want to just remind you that not just the wisdom is timeless. Not just the scriptures are timeless, even the saints and sages are timeless. The Greek writers and also the historians of those times and all those people who have studied this and the many shades of this conversation of Alexander the Great and the Hindu sadhus, they often say the sheer self-belief of the Hindu sadhus challenged the beliefs of Alexander the Great. Despite the fact he had conquered half of the world, the sadhus had conquered their own emotions and their own selves. And that was a much stronger and a more powerful statement. In life, self-belief forms the bedrock of everything that we do. At these times of coronavirus crisis, when everything we believe in has been challenged in one way or another, when there is so much disturbance and disruption, our belief in our social systems, in our relatives, in our friends, our belief in our medical system, our belief in the way we work, way we socialize, our belief in our own future, everything has been challenged in one way or another. The most important part in these times of uncertainty, times of death, destruction, disease, and depression, the most important part is to regenerate self-belief, reignite our belief in others, and reaffirm our belief in God and our Guru. These three elements, which are very important, let us try and explore them through the wisdom of Hinduism. So in the next session, we shall explore the importance of belief in oneself. It is very important because you may have everything with you. You may have wealth, you may have wisdom, you may have fame, you may have glory. But if you lack self-belief, everything dissipates in seconds. Once a patient was seen running out of an operation theatre, heaving and panting and completely perspiring. He was shaking. The caring administration of the hospital put him in a place and asked him, why are you running? Why are you so scared? He said, I was wheeled into the operation theatre. And he said, then what happened? All the nurses and all the paramedics were saying that keep calm, nothing will happen, everything will go fine, keep self-belief and don't be nervous. God is with you. It is your first operation, but don't worry, you will be successful. Don't worry, we are all with you. All the administration staff said, well, what's strange about this? Such words give a patient comfort. Why are you so scared and why have you just run out? He said the biggest problem is they were not telling this to me. They were comforting the doctor. That's why I ran out. Even if you are a doctor with all your abilities and all your skills, if you lack self-belief, everything disappears in seconds. At the end of the day, self-belief forms the bedrock of our existence. Next session, let us explore the importance of self-belief in these times of crisis. Jai Swaminarayan.